Good morning and welcome to Rising. Oh, what a show we have for you today. It's good to be back with you. Niall is here and is here all week and maybe part of next week.
Yes, Monday of next week, I think, but concentrating on this Monday, taking it one day at a time.
One Monday at a time. Well, good to see you. It is Arctic in here for some reason in the studio, so if we're chattering, it's because we're not properly heated.
Arctic in here, chilly outside. It's actually warmer outside than it is in here. But we'll persevere nonetheless.
We shall do our best.
So coming up on Rising, House Democrats say that convicted sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell is planning on asking President Trump to commute her federal prison sentence. And they're also sounding the alarm over the allegedly lenient and preferential treatment she's getting in prison.
Plus, Joe Rogan and actor Billy Bob Thornton, favorite actor of mine, took some shots at other actors who use award ceremonies to promote political causes.
And 8 Senate Democrats have voted in favor to end the longest government shutdown ever. But first of all, Robbie, let's get started. What is on your radar?
I almost did a radar on how much I dislike Zohran Mamdani.
Oh, no!
But instead, I decided to start the week on a more conciliatory note.
You saved my feelings.
Here we go. So, no one ever said Donald Trump lacked creativity. The president is clearly concerned that the Supreme Court could rule against his widespread use of tariffs to engage in diplomacy with countries the world over, and has come up with an idea to make them more popular with Americans. Trump is promising to pay every American, except those who are already very wealthy, $2,000 per person. Trump wrote this on Truth Social. People that are against tariffs are fools. We are now the richest, most respected country in the world with almost no inflation and a record stock market price. 401ks are highest ever. We're taking in trillions of dollars and will soon begin paying down our enormous debt. 37 trillion record investment in the USA. Plants and factories going up all over the place. A dividend of at least $2,000 a person, not including high-income people, will be paid to everyone. Well, this idea comes at a moment where Trump's tariffs, well, they could be in jeopardy, constitutionally speaking. The Supreme Court is currently hearing arguments regarding a case that will decide whether the president has the power to unilaterally impose tariffs without action from Congress, now under his broad emergency powers. Last week, the SCOTUS justices seemed skeptical that the president possessed this power. A key moment came when Associate Justice Neil Gorsuch asked whether the president could use these same emergency powers to impose tariffs in other contexts. Take a listen.
Could the president impose a 50% tariff on gas-powered cars and auto parts to deal with the unusual and extraordinary threat from abroad of climate change?
It's very likely that could be done. Very likely.
I think that has to be the logic of your view.
Yeah, in other words, obviously this administration would say that's a hoax, it's not a real crisis, but...
I'm sure you would.
Yes, but that would be a question for Congress under our interpretation, not for the courts.
That was the sound of every properly conservative American dying a little on the inside. Now, I don't care how much you love Donald Trump. If the president can declare tariffs on that basis, then just imagine what Democrats will do when they get back into power. Now, as for Trump's latest scheme, $2,000 for every American sounds like a great deal. When will the checks be in the mail, I wonder? But don't get too excited. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent clarified that these cash payments to Americans could take many forms. Here he was explaining the policy to the media over the weekend.
The $2,000 dividend could come in lots of forms, in lots of ways, George. It could be just the tax decreases that we are seeing on the president's agenda. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security, deductibility of auto loans. So, those are substantial deductions that, are being financed in the tax bill.
But here's the problem. Now, while it certainly sounds good for every American to receive a check for $2,000, the revenue raised from tariffs comes from, well, all of us. Tariffs are, in fact, a tax on the American people. Foreign countries don't pay them. Foreign firms don't pay them. The cost of the tariff is paid by the importer, no matter the good or the product or the resource or the service in question. Whoever is purchasing the tariffed item, whether it's Japanese cars or South American sugar, that's the party who pays them, the purchaser. That party then passes that cost on to domestic consumers by raising the price that they're going to charge when they sell it in this country. All of the revenue raised by the federal government vis-a-vis tariffs is being collected already from the American people. So seen in that light, the true light, the idea of the U.S. receiving some of that money back in the form of checks, Well, that's a bit absurd. The tariff revenue was collected from us in the form of higher prices. Skip the checks, just get rid of the tariffs and watch prices fall. Now, conservatives, if they're being honest with themselves, know that the best way to have a healthy economy is to have a federal government that is maximally hands-off. It is not a conservative agenda, but a socialist agenda, a Zoran Mamdani agenda, perhaps, that wants central government control over the economy in the form of vast regulation, price fixing, and taxation. Tariffs are taxes. Conservatives know this. The Supreme Court knows it too. So with respect to those $2,000 checks, thank you, Mr. President, but no thank you. Just cut taxes, cut tariffs, watch the magic of the market economy go to work.
Well, I'm going to skip over your gratuitous jab at Mr. Mamdani and move on to the substance of your argument. As you know, you and I have broadly similar views on the tariff question. I think that there are some isolated examples where they could be justified. I don't think you think they're ever justified, but the general thrust of your argument, which is that they're a tax on everybody, I do agree with that. I was also scribbling notes as you were going through your radar there, and just some of the things that struck me were, for example, Trump tweeting about 401ks being their highest ever. Of course, 401ks very much linked to the stock market. That's not at its highest ever because of tariffs. In fact, tariffs in terms of the Liberation Day tariffs sunk the stock market by quite a significant amount, and then they rallied, the markets rallied back as Trump gradually pulled back from the tariffs. The Supreme Court case, I think we discussed briefly last week, but it does seem to me of a piece of Trump's tendency to just declare emergencies in various ways as a way to get around whatever the existing laws or practices or guardrails are. And then Scott Bessent making that argument, well, it could come in many forms. I just laughed.
Good feelings.
Good feelings, good vibes.
Yeah.
$3,000 of good vibes for everyone.
I'm very concerned that the Republican Party, the Trump administration, Trump himself, frankly, is not at this moment paying close enough attention to affordability and the general economic situation being such a chief concern of voters. It should not be surprising that this is the chief concern of voters. This has remained now the chief concern of voters for a long time. This is what sunk Biden, the perception that his policies had contributed to inflation. They had not gotten inflation under control. They were in denial about the extent of the inflation problem. People were seeing the sticker price of goods at the grocery store staying high and blaming Biden for that. Trump comes into power and does not, and you know, I'm not like unfairly critical of the guy. I don't try to slam him left and right. I've had some positive things to say about the foreign policy agenda of the administration. The domestic policy agenda is just is gone awry because these prices remain high and people are still feeling that pain. And that's not actually surprising, again, given the tariffs and some other policies. This is a case where I love to disdain economic experts or experts in any field as much as anyone else, but the economic experts all said if you do this kind of thing, it will hurt the market, it will hurt affordability, and they did it anyway, and this is what has happened. It's persisted to hurt.
Yeah, and the Trump people take refuge in the idea that some of the predictions for inflation were higher than they've turned out to be. But it's still the case that inflation at 3% on an annualized basis is pretty much exactly where it was when Trump came into power. Given the centrality of that issue to his election, as you point out, it's obviously a problem for him that inflation has not been curbed in any significant way at all. And so we see when it's broken down, when his performance is broken down according to various topics, you see basically his worst marks on inflation. And I think that goes to some of the points you were raising.
It's really frustrating that the administration, almost on some very basic level, doesn't seem to understand that when you say, you know, whatever it is, car parts from Canada cost 20% more, that means the price of cars, things we're buying here, goes up accordingly, just in a very basic way.
Yeah, not that hard to understand.
Yeah.
Coming up, former President Biden is issuing a warning about Trump's presidency. Stick with us, we'll be right back with that.